classroom. This is Stephanie with Ellis County Farm Bureau, and we're so excited to be back here in January to talk about another part of agriculture in our state. January is a super special month for Kansas. If you didn't know it, you may know it here towards the end of the month, but on January 29th in 1861, our Kansas territory became the 34th state in the Union. So, happy Kansas Day on January 29th. And so we decided to talk about something that goes hand in hand with agriculture and the history of our state. And so we wanted to talk about the Chisholm Trail. And you may be asking, what is the Chisholm Trail? Is that just like a hiking trail or something? Actually, the Chisholm Trail was a very important part of agriculture. You see, after the Civil War, there were a lot of cattle down in Texas. And there were so many cattle that they were only worth about $4 for each head of cattle. And back in the East, there was a lot of people that needed to eat, but they couldn't get the beef. And so they had to figure out a way to get the cattle from Texas all the way to the East and the West Coast so they could feed people. And on those parts of the country, the cattle were worth a lot more money. They were worth about $40 a head versus the $4 a head they were worth in Texas. And so a group of guys got together and tried to figure out a way to get the cattle from Texas out to the East Coast. And that's where the Chisholm Trail was born. There were lots of little trails that came into the Chisholm Trail, but the main trail that traveled from Texas to Abilene, Kansas was called the Chisholm Trail, and it was named after a man named Jesse Chisholm. And when they would move the cattle from Texas to Abilene, once they got to Abilene, there was a bunch of corrals there that they had made for the cattle, and then the railroad would come right by those corrals. They would load the cattle onto the railroad cars, and they would ship them off to the east to be sold and utilized, actually east and west, to be sold and utilized by the people that lived in those areas. Now, it wasn't like you just threw them in a trailer and you drove them down the trail. You had to literally drive them with horses by the thousands from Texas to Abilene. So what would happen is a trail boss would hire a bunch of guys, maybe 15 to 20 cowboys. He'd also hire a cook and a chuck wagon, and then you hire what he called the wrangler. And the wrangler was the person that took care of all the horses, because a group of cattle, say 2,500 to 3,000 head of cattle, took about 100 to 150 horses to help push them from Texas to Abilene. And they would start in the spring, right after the cold weather and when the grass started to grow, so that they would have food to graze all the way to Abilene, where they would get on the rail car. So it took several months to get all that way. When the trail boss got there, he would sell the cattle, he would sell the horses, he would pay the cowboys, and then he'd take the money back to the ranch in Texas, and then next season do it all over again. So this was a process that went for many, many years. I want to say it lasted from about 1867 until the late 1870s. Probably 10 to 12 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. And during that time, they estimate that between 5 to 6 million head of cattle and about 1 million head of horses were transported from Texas all the way to Kansas, which is crazy. It's just totally crazy. So it was a really unique opportunity for the ranchers to get their cattle to market. And it was something that evolved over time. So after it was in Abilene, they actually moved it to different places in Kansas, like Newton and Wichita. And then it finally ended up kind of being in the Dodge City area. And then Abilene kind of went by the wayside. But the original Chisholm Trail was from Texas to Abilene, Kansas. Now, you're going to learn today about the different types of cattle. I've actually got a couple models here. And if you notice, my chair next to me is empty. Kayla's usually sitting here, right? Actually, she is out on the ranch today, and she is looking at some cattle in person, doing some videoing for us, and she's also talking to a real live, trail boss, you might want to call him, because he is raising the longhorn cattle that used to run on the Chisholm Trail. So nowadays we have more of the beef cattle type. You can see he's really thick. This is a model of a Charolais bull. But if you look here, this is the original type of steer that would have been on the Chisholm Trail. This is a longhorn model, and you can see there's a lot of difference in between these two types of animal. The longhorn was a lot leaner, a lot hardier. They could handle the heat in Texas and moving long distances. So that's why they use longhorn cattle, okay? And so Kayla's gonna take you out to the ranch. You're gonna see some in person, not just a model. And she's gonna do the video all by herself this time. She's also got some cool stuff that we're gonna send to your classrooms. So I hope you enjoy the video today about beef cattle and the Chisholm Trail. Thanks.
It's Kayla, and I'm here at my home place in Gove County, and we're going to talk about the Chisholm Trail this month. But I kind of just want to talk to you guys about the types of cows that you saw on the Chisholm Trail back when it was still running and in full motion, compared to the cows that we have like today. So a lot of people in Kansas normally run a lot of Black Angus. These are some of our Black Angus cows. There's also a lot of guys that run Red Angus, Hereford, and those types of breeds weren't necessarily popular when people were still using the Chisholm Trail to transport cattle from all the way down in Texas, all the way up to Kansas and Abilene. So there are a few key main differences that we're gonna look at. Number one, they could get the longhorn cattle from South Texas and Mexico even for nothing. I mean, half these cattle were just roaming around, so they were practically free. So they were taking them and driving them all the way up to Kansas, to Abilene, and they did that because number one, they had no cost, and they were super hardy animals. I mean, longhorns can survive on almost nothing. They think about Texas, how dry it is, the shrubs, you know, there's hardly any grass to actually eat. So it's very easy to keep a longhorn alive compared to a more modernized beef cow. So when we're growing beef nowadays, we look for quality, quantity, and how fast we can get it, you know, from the producer to the consumer. So it has to go all through these steps until it's ready to be bought in a store. So we feed out cattle. We start them when they're calves around this age. We start them on grain, you know, we feed them every day. We want them to be big and strong and have lots of marbling so the meat is nice and tender. It's definitely more of, you know, longhorn is more of a delicacy, not really a delicacy, but a specialty almost, because it's very lean, you know, you don't see a longhorn cow that's really like bulked up and meaty like the beef cattle that you see in today's society. You know, another reason that a lot of people had longhorns back then is because they were so easy. They're an easy animal. I mean, nowadays, when the cowboys were bringing them up, there wasn't really, you know, a high maintenance. There wasn't a routine that they had to do to keep them alive. I mean, they're just a hardy enough animal that they knew exactly what they needed to do, and they're naturally built to, you know, withstand traveling so many miles in a day without hardly any water, without any food. So that made them another prime candidate for a cattle drive. Hi guys, it's Kayla. So I'm out here south of Grainfield, Kansas, and we are with Roger Swihart, and these are all his longhorns. So we've been talking about the Chisholm Trail and kind of the different types of cattle that you see on the Chisholm Trail, and the most popular type was the Texas Longhorn. So, Roger, how did you get into getting these longhorns? You don't really see them around here very much anymore.
Not too much, but I am a horn fanatic, and I go way back when I was a little kid. And I started out with Watusis. I used to have a Watusi registered herd, and I gradually got out of that. What intrigued me about the longhorns was the longhorn that they're doing today. You hear the 80 inches, and then it was 90 inches, and then it was 100 inches, and then it was 120 inches.
Right.
And I don't have anything in that realm yet, but I've got some good prospects coming on. I got one here I'll point out. I don't see her right now, but when she turned 2, she was 61 3/4 inch tip to tip, and she had a 3-month-old heifer calf at her
Wow.
side. So I'm just having a ball with Longhorns.
Yeah. So is there, you know, we kind of talked about the different, you know, kind of the cattle that we use in today's industry as in terms of production. Is there a market still for this kind of cattle? I mean, what do you see on that side of things?
Actually, there's 2 really good markets. One's the horns,
Okay.
and the big thing now is the long Longhorn. The
Right.
extreme stuff.
Right.
There's a market there. The other thing is lean Longhorn beef.
Okay.
The Longhorn Association is going nuts promoting lean Longhorn beef. I even sell it. So if you get hungry for
Really?
lean Longhorn beef,
Well, we
I
will have
sell
to
it.
keep that in mind. Okay guys, so this is a Longhorn chute, and Roger's going to tell us a little bit about that and how it works and how it's a little bit different than your normal cattle chute.
actually it opens from both sides. So you bring the animal in from either side. And both sides squeeze. You've got the parallel bars. So once you get the, of course you need to set some panels up, but once you get the animal in, you squeeze them from both sides. You have horn locks, so you can get a horn in here, bring that up, lock the horns for horn measuring, working, whatever.
Huh.
So it's really slick, and a normal chute will not work with those long horns.
Oh no, I bet not.
However,
Roger, thank you for letting me come out here today, and we are super thankful that you gave us your knowledge on Longhorns, and yeah,
well,
thank
you bet. Well, thank you for coming. I love to show them off. It's my pleasure.
Remember guys, if you ate today, thank a farmer. God bless America, and we will see you next time on Ag in the Classroom.
Stephanie, you gotta be smart enough to operate a camera. What are you doing here? Don't move. Be very still.
Are you going now?
Uh-huh.
Hey, get out of the spout!
Well, hello, Ag in the Classroom. It's Stephanie with Ellis County, here to talk about another cool agriculture-connected commodity. Never mind. Let's start that again because I need to learn to rehearse some more. Eat beef, right? And so able to put the cattle on the rail cars and transport them to the east. That was way screwy. Stephanie. I promise I am educated. I just can't get it out today. This is a Charolais bull model. So this is kind of the more modern day cattle that we have. And I should tell you what the Chisholm Trail is before I start talking about the cows.